the thing is, the question is, what is a proportionate response? Because it has been different from one tier to another. So if you look to this graph, for example, this is the death of Israeli and Palestinians, and it's changing from one year to year. It's like fluctuating like crypto. So my question is today, what is the going rate today for human lives? I mean, 2014 was a great year for Ben Shapiro. 88 Israelis were died, and there was 2,329 Palestinians killed on the other side. That is one Israeli for 27 Palestinians. That is a very good exchange rate. What I'm saying is, what is the exchange rate for today? You guys will be happy. But let me tell you something. I mean, the reason that I'm using this is that, I mean, I can't remember what happened in 2014. And there was no music festival, but there must be something. I mean, they must do something. It is their fault. It has to be something. I mean, 2018, 300 Palestinians died. Who's counting, you know? So the thing is, what my question is, let's find what is the exchange rate for human life today so we expect the future death of Palestinians and we'll be happy to it.
What would you think would be the appropriate way for the country to respond?
I would do exactly like Israel did, kill as many people as possible since the world is letting me do it. I mean, I can do it because I can, you know. But the thing is, you know what, I agree with you. And you know what, I'm going to be even ahead of you because I see the question coming. Do you condemn Hamas for the atrocity? Yes, I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. Hamas is the source of all evil. They're a reason for everything. And you know what, let's for a minute imagine a world without Hamas.
Right.
What will this word look like? Let's give this word a name, and let's name this word the West Bank. Hamas has absolutely no control in the West Bank, and since the beginning of this year, only through August, 37 Palestinian kids were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. Since the occupation of the West Bank, 7,000 Palestinians were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. I can go on and on and on. So I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade. It's fine. You have done your job. If we agree that for the 14,000 casualties, I mean, who's counting, our human shield, does that mean that every single one of those civilians was standing, obscuring a military target behind them? Because that's a lot of weapons. I mean, Hamas is packing.
No, of course it doesn't. And look,
so there's some collateral damage, lots of collateral damage.
Yes,
it's fine. Yeah, you kill some to save some, and then kill some more. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, these are years of disproportionate responses of Israel.
Right.
Did it solve the solution? Did it solve the problem? Did it work before? So it will work. What will be the surprise this time? What will be the twist that will make this work this time? What will be different this time? Seriously, I mean, like this is only the last 15 years. I mean, because it's too many papers. I just got this. But how will this be different? And the thing is, I am so glad in the introduction that you mentioned the Iraq war. I applaud you, Pierce, for saying that, because you were honest about it. You said that spreading lies like WMDs make people look at those people as less of humans, and they would accept the death of 1 million Iraqi, whether by sanctions or by invasion, right? You are a good man. This is amazing. And you know what is similar? Is when you spread the lies of 40 decapitated babies, although it was refuted. So what happens when people hear that, killing babies is horrible. But when you say decapitated 40 babies, you are planting a certain image
with a
certain trigger in people's mind.
Who has said that? Who has said 40?
Who has said that? You have said 40 decapitated.
Who has said that?
You have repeated.
No, I haven't.
What?
I've never said that.
You haven't said on your show 40 decapitated babies?
Never.
Ben Shapiro once tweeted, not even about Gaza, about the West Bank, when Israel continued to build the illegal settlement. He said, 2017, Israel likes to build things, and Arabs, not Palestine, not Hamas, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Yeah, I thought that was very
the Israeli defense minister, he said, those are human animals. And the thing is, Ben Shapiro should know better, because, long before the Holocaust, before Jewish people were thrown in the gas chambers, The Nazi propaganda called them rats. Now, as a human being, I will never accept that another human being being thrown into a gas chamber. But a rat, kill 10, kill 1,000, 3,500. They are son of a bitch. They are human animals who live in open sewage and decapitate babies. And because of that propaganda, Mr. Morgan, that guy in Illinois, the 71 years old guy, he killed, stabbing the 6-year-old Palestinian kid in Illinois 26 times. And he used to play with him. They used to be friends. But he went in, marching into their apartment, stabbing his mother and killing him, shouting, all Muslims could die.
Yeah.
It took you 80 years to change one word from Jewish to Muslim. And then you transferred your guilt to us and took away our land.
Bassem, let me ask you a question.
That deal sucks, man.
Let me ask you a question. How do we get from where we are now to peace?
Well, first of all, you need to change the perception. Nikki Haley, the American presidential candidate, said, we are in Israel in this because it's a fight between evil, good and evil. Now, if you already decided someone is good, he can do no evil. And if you decided someone is evil, it's good to kill them. Killing them is good. You see, and the thing is, it is not like something new. I mean, I look at history and I see, I'm sorry to say this, but Westerners has always dealt like this with indigenous people. You first treated them like savages, you know, Native American, First Nation, Aboriginal. They're savages. Kill all the savages. And then when they're almost extinct, you start feeling sorry for them, you know, like animals. So maybe the solution is that we kill as many Palestinians as possible so the few of them that remains do not bother you. And maybe Netanyahu, when he lives for another 100 years, he'll become a tree hugger.
Let me just challenge you on this.
And he will campaign for preserving the free Palestinians.
It's bizarre. Like, it's binary thinking that people just fall into, but war is the worst of it. War makes people so stupid. I mean, it's like the way they talk about these things. Like you said, it's like the side of pure good versus the side of pure bad. It's like a 7-year-old boy playing with action figures. Like, this is good guy, this is bad guy. And reality is almost never anything like that. It's always enormously more complex than that. And I think that's, you know, that's the truth with the history of Israel and Palestine, is that it's not. And I'm Jewish, so like I grew up very much just only hearing the Israeli side of the story. And it's basically, you can still get this in a Ben Shapiro video, you know, that millions of people watch. But it really will. Their story is just kind of like, the Jews came here and we just said, hey, we want to be independent. And then in response to that, all the Arab nations attacked us. And then we just keep offering you peace. And they just keep saying no. And they just want, you know, we just want to live in peace. And they just want to kill Jews. And that's the story. And there's nothing else that you need to know that's relevant here. But that's just so not true. There's so much more to it than that. And if you're gonna tell this story and you want to zoom out and really understand what's going on here, it's just, if you're going to ignore the fact that the creation of Israel involved kicking a whole lot of people out of where they were living at the time and had been living for hundreds of years. 750,000 Palestinian Arabs were kicked out of their land. Many of them were forced out. Many of them fled and then were never allowed to come back. And
this was in 47?
Well, it started in 1947. And what I'm saying, if I say like, hey, the way you got your land was really fucked up and you kill a lot of innocent people, that's nothing I wouldn't say about my own government as well.
Right.
And I love America. So just that as the first disclaimer there. No, but so you said, so in 1947, and this is like right in the aftermath of World War II, and the British Empire was basically crumbling, and they had been ruling the territory of Palestine under a mandate, and so they basically washed their hands of the situation. There had been issues for years already, and they kicked it over to the United Nations, and the United Nations was a brand new organization, or like a year old or something like that. And they had no authority to like create states out of nowhere. It was a recommendation. They go, we recommend this partition plan that would have given 56% of the land to the Jews for a Jewish state and 44% of the land to the Arabs to have an Arab state. And at the time, the Jews, the Zionist settlers there, they owned about 10% of the land. And so this recommendation was that they get 56% of the land. And so immediately the Zionist settlers accepted. They went, yes, great deal. We'll take 56% of this. And the Arabs were like, no, that's not a fair deal at all. And then pretty immediately after that, there's a great book by Sheldon Richmond called Coming to Palestine, if you're interested in the topic and you want to see. But immediately after that, a bunch of essentially like Zionist militias started kicking Arabs off of the land. Like, hey, the UN said this part's ours. And like first a civil war broke out. And in this process, hundreds of thousands. I mean, between 1947 and 1948, the total number is around 750,000 Arabs who were forced out or fled. And then in 1948, Israel declared independence. And then, as a response to that, outside Arab nations invaded, got involved in the fight. Israel won. And then after Israel won the war, they seized about 80% of the land. So they were offered 54% or recommended 54%. They won a war, and then they just took 80% of it. And then in 1967, so this is in 1948, then, but at that point, at the end of the war, the portion that is the Palestinian territories today, that was the West Bank and East Jerusalem, that was controlled by Jordan, and Gaza was controlled by Egypt. And then in 1967, Israel launched a preemptive war, and they won again. And then they just took 100% of it. And then they just took control of the West Bank, all of Jerusalem, and Gaza. And they've had it ever since. Jeez. They won a war in 1967, and they've occupied these territories ever since. And the Palestinians in these areas they just have no rights. They have no natural rights. They're just nothing. Like, they are the government of Israel. For most of the time, they were literally occupying it with the IDF, not worse than martial law, because it's like a foreign military, like foreign occupation. And they've always maintained control of everything that goes in and out, what supplies, how much food, how much water, how much electricity, all of these things. And look, it's just, if you're going to talk about this situation, as so many people do, like so many people in like Ben Shapiro's camp, they talk about this conflict, talk about October 7th, and just leave all of that out. And if you do that, you're just not really having a conversation about what's going on here. You know what I mean? Like, you can never really like grapple with the situation if you don't at least acknowledge
for the United States to allow and fund an open-ended engagement in Gaza. Open-ended. With, Netanyahu we need like 2 years, two months.
They're already saying that it might be beyond the tipping point of rebuilding. Like, they've destroyed so much. Have you seen the footage, the recent footage?
It's crazy.
Mosques.
It's not
just
good.
Bombing mosques, bombing buildings.
It's their moment. At what we did after 9/11 did not make us safer. And I think they're having that moment right now where there's an understandable rage. They are upset. Hamas has their babies and women and children, and what Hamas did was strike at the heart. That's what terrorism does, right? You get to the core of a human being by saying, we're going to rip away the things from you that you care about the most. This is the emotional response to that. I don't know how strategic long-term it is.
It's terrifying.
And I think it's unfortunately, when you see women and children being killed that are innocent, we got to minimize that. This is, if not, this is why when we have a modern civilization, the whole point of being a civilized country is to, minimize deaths of innocent people in these types of things.
Especially like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that October 7th thing is so wild. The music festivals.
It's crazy.
Terrifying.
No, and I understand why you have a situation now where Israel is in a position where they're going, well, we can't live with Hamas.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Right.
We can't live with them. But there needs to be some two-state solution. When I grew up, all we heard was that It never materialized. It never came to fruition. But then over the last few years, no one's talked about it and no one's cared. And I think it's become a situation where you have these elements, these radical elements in that society that are reacting to the very real and unending, like unlivability of that situation. Where Gaza's unlivable. It's not a livable situation, the situation. So then there's going to be people that are ultimately hopeless. And that's where terrorism comes from. It comes from people that feel like they have zero hope. Nobody blows himself up or engages in this type of activity because they feel like there's a myriad of options for them in life.
Right.
They might be polluted with fundamentalist religion, but where does that come from? It comes from the idea that if somebody came to me and goes, blow yourself up, I go, I don't want to. I have a show tonight, for law enforcement. I have whatever. I got stuff to do. I don't have the greatest life in the world. I don't even have to say that. I have a raccoon coat on. But the point is, I'm not going to blow myself up. No young 19-year-old person should be at a point in their life when, for a religion or a political faction or a government, should be thinking of doing a kamikaze mission. So you do have to address the political conditions that create that level of hopelessness. You do.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that anti-Semitism's okay, and that doesn't mean that at every turn you're going to be able to convert people, that if they just want to kill Jews, maybe they're just going to kill Jews, and you have to eradicate that threat. But you have to address those political conditions that create that type of desperation in people that turns them to that type of
violence. It's nice that America's finally waking up and becoming aware of how serious this issue and how this issue affects all of us. Watching everything fall apart in the last few weeks has been extremely disheartening. I know I come off as I know how to put on a game face for shows, but I've been really depressed. There's people right now who are suffering a deeply tragic situation. People are being killed right now, and we are not over there. We are here in the first world. And so I think it is important for us to remember that we should not be the ones adding fuel to the fire. We should be helping. We should be stopping this madness. That's my opinion. Okay? What the Palestinians are going through right now is by definition of a genocide. You can get upset with that if you want, but a lot of people you're changing the definition of genocide. No, you didn't know what the definition of genocide was. You have to look it up. It turns out there's been a lot of genocides that you didn't think about because that's the definition of genocide. Here's the positive part. The Palestinian people are strong. The Palestinian people are very, very strong. They're the only ones who could be surviving this madness. You have good, innocent civilians fighting for their lives against the deprivation of basic human rights. We're going to cut off their food. We're going to cut off their water. It's have you heard of Ramadan? They've been training for this their whole lives. You're messing with the wrong folks. This just brings them closer to God. Can you imagine if the people who controlled America's water and food cut off our water and food? We'd be storming the Capitol tomorrow. We'd be eating each other on day 3. The vegans would go first. You'd have 10 January 6th at the Capitol. We'd be eating Nancy Pelosi right in front of her. Can you imagine if people blacked out our internet? Gen Z's head would explode the first day. There couldn't even be a genocide. There'd be a mass suicide before it even started. So people are suffering, and the least we can do is try and help and try to create an aura of peace. And this also means seeing through propaganda. There's a lot of propaganda going on right now that's trying to destroy the character of a lot of different people and divide us all. You have to understand, there's propaganda that's making Arabs look bad. It's a full-on smear campaign against Arabs. And the same thing for Jewish people, too, a smear campaign. If you're Arab, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, you need to know that we are being divided and we are being torn apart by fucking warlords right now. This is not us. This is not reflective of our people, of our histories. And, correct me if I'm wrong, plus or minus, but there's about 7 million Jews in Israel, and there's about 7 million Palestinians. Could be plus or minus, could be about 6 to 7. Jewish people want a Jewish state. Palestinian people want a Palestinian state. There's only a couple ways it's going to happen. There's either going to be two states, there's going to be one state where the land is shared, or there's going to be a genocide. Be on the team of not choosing genocide. That's all the basic premise is. Don't choose the genocide. Mathematically, the land is to be shared, not taken. I wrote that myself when I was high. The land is to be shared, not. I wish we could just spread the whole world like a CBD mist over the whole world at one time. But nobody would allow that. You couldn't get that clearance through the government. You'd have to just a full-on grassroots movement to just, and an indica too. No sativa bullshit. We don't need more anxiety in this world. Just spray the whole world down with an indica, get everybody in the couch, and then we can have a real conversation. Trust me, I've been making bits about the situation for many, many years. It's very hard to do it without being a complete downer and also without coming across as insensitive. I also choose my words very carefully. And you can never satisfy everybody. You know, people are always going to get offended by one thing you might say. And then there's the other camp of people who are like, you didn't go hard enough. Somebody asked me, why don't you make jokes about Israel? I usually say Palestine because you can often get in trouble for criticizing Israel. That's the other thing, too. People aren't pronouncing the names right. That's a really annoying thing. I heard somebody call it Palestine. Like, this isn't Ohio, bro. Like, I heard somebody call it Gaza. Like, no, it's Gaza. Or if you're Arab, say Gaza. Yeah. Or as Israelis say, Hamas. Even Israel too. You have these southern politicians like, Israel. I stand with Israel. Like, dude, if you stand with them, say it how they say it. They say it Israel. Or as Arabs call it, Palestine. Like, just learn the names. Learn the names.